Hello, everyone, and welcome to our University of Tulsa Alumni Student Virtual Networking event. This event is being brought to you by the TU Alumni Association, Career Networking Committee, and the TU Future Alumni Council. My name is Lionel Thompson, and I am the Assistant Dean and Director of the Business Career Center in the Collins College of Business. I will be your moderator for this event today. We have a great lineup of panelists who are here to share their insights on everything career development, mentorship, advice, and anything you from the audience would like to know. But before we begin, I would like to start off with a few housekeeping items. First off, everyone is muted. That helps to reduce background noise and distractions. We have a set of panelist questions that will be asked, but we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the entire event. And so you can do that by either chatting in your question or typing your question in the Q&A options. And those are options you should be able to see if you're logged in via the web Zoom. You should be able to see those at the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in only, you can email your questions to me at lionel-thompson@utulsa.edu. While we'll ask questions throughout, we will start to make sure we answer all the questions from the audience starting around 4:45 p.m. This webinar is being recorded, and so if you missed something or want to share with some of your colleagues or friends, feel free to do that. It will be available on the University of Tulsa YouTube channel, which you will find the link there, and we will also send it out to all of you who have signed in to attend. And upon exiting the webinar, you will be prompted to take a short survey. So it's a short 6-7 question survey just to give us feedback on items you gained from this, interesting stuff, interesting, ratings, what you thought about the event overall to help us as we go forward. So with that, I want to show our wonderful panelists and thank them for being here today. And we're going to just start right off. And so we'll start with Katie. If you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just go in order of the slide. So Katie, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Katie Ahrens. I graduated in 2001 and 2002, and as the slide says, I was a undergraduate was in applied mathematics, and then I stayed and got a master's in finance focusing on risk management. I had internships on the Williams Energy Marketing and Trading on the trade floor. Originally during grad school. I have worked at JP Morgan Energy in the commodities trading area, and now I currently am the manager of petroleum risk and compliance at Quick Trip.
Thank you. Derrick?
Yep. I'm Derrick Alexander, graduated class 15. I am, I actually graduated, my major was in business management, I had a minor in finance. And right now, currently, I was a student athlete while I was at TU. I played football and then had the opportunity to play professionally for a short stint. And, ended up getting injured, came back, and then started working as a financial advisor here in town. And, been enjoying it. I'm born and raised Tulsa, Oklahoma. Graduated from University of not graduated from University of Booker T, but from Booker T Washington High School, for those of you that are local. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm John Hudson. I graduated in 1987 with a degree in marketing, and I also had a minor in computer science, information systems. And I was one of those guys, those geeks back in 1979 with my first computer, and I fell in love with it. And I knew I wanted to somehow take part in that, especially from being on the front lines in a marketing and sales perspective. So I do today what I went to school for, which is kind of unusual for a lot of people, but I've taken several stints at startups and made some money at a few. I work now for a information, really networking and security consulting company, and we work with companies globally to help secure their networks and also manage those networks. So that's me in a nutshell. And I did have an internship when I was at University of Tulsa. It was with Facet Enterprises, and it was mostly focused on marketing.
Thank you. And last but definitely not least, Thomas Porter.
Hi, Leonelle.
Hello.
I'm so glad to be able to connect with you guys virtually today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Thomas Porter. I am right now based in Denver, Colorado. I'm a University of Tulsa graduate from the class of 2014. I'm sure Derrick shares my understanding, and can't believe that that's now 6 years, or almost 6 years. I was a double major in energy management and finance, also a minor in theater. I bet you there will probably never be another one with that type of combination. I really got my exposure into the oil and gas industry at TU. I interned with ConocoPhillips, which turned into a full-time job opportunity as a landman in Houston, Texas. Worked there for about 3 years. And then got a job opportunity in Denver, Colorado, working for a company called Anadarko Petroleum Corporation. We were recently acquired by a company called Occidental Petroleum. And so now I currently work in Denver as a land negotiator for Occidental, also known as Oxy for short. So really excited to be here. I'm excited to hear everyone's questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we'll just jump right in. So all of you are very much engaged with TU post-graduation. How did you stay connected with TU as an alumni? How did you seek out those opportunities? Did you start that before you graduated? How did you maintain that, especially Thomas, you being in Denver, how do you maintain that relationship? So we'll go ahead and start off, Thomas, with you on that question.
Great. For me, it really started with getting involved with the TU Alumni Association. I was heavily involved in a various organizations on campus, university ambassadors, orientation leaders, you name it, I was there. And you realize the impact of the TU community, but you also realize just how special that group of people are. And when you get out into the real world, it has been so helpful, whether I was moving to Houston or moving to Denver, to be able to have that common connection with people through the TU alumni community. So moving to Denver, I didn't really have to worry about, figuring out where I was going to live or having, a barbecue to go to when I got there. I knew people through the TU Alumni Association, and through that, I was able to build a lot of connections. So that, I think building those connections is kind of how you can always stay connected to the university.
Very good. Anyone else want to chime in?
Well, this is Katie. I was going to say, I was just going to add that, when I graduated initially, I was in town or close to town, and I moved to Houston when I went to work for JP Morgan. And that's when it was really easy when I was in Tulsa to stay connected. We go to football games and basketball games and always know what's going on. And then when I realized when I went to Houston that network was was even more important to me than I realized, and had the opportunity to help out with the Houston chapter and become a member of the national board, but just helped me stay engaged. And like Thomas mentioned, just knowing that you have that network no matter what city you're in is really helpful. And I really started to get involved and stayed involved just because I recognized how meaningful that was to have that community of TU alumni around me.
Yeah, and I'll chime in here. This is John Hudson, and I grew up in the TU family pretty much. My dad went to TU, my mother did, my brother did. So I've been around this family, this community, pretty much all of my life, and I grew up in Tulsa. but I knew that I wanted to move somewhere, and Kansas City was a likely place for me because I had friends up here from the fraternity. And I too, like Thomas, was involved on campus in SA and my fraternity and other organizations. And so when I decided to move, there was no University of Tulsa Alumni Association chapter anywhere. All we had was the main TU Alumni Association. So when I arrived, when I landed in my first job, I decided that I would become more involved and bring people together here locally for events. And ultimately, it was born an alumni chapter for the university, and then we grew that beyond Kansas City, of course. But yeah, staying connected in my community is really important, and it's also led to opportunities in business, not just for jobs, but for just business opportunities in general.
And I guess I would say, just as as a local here from Tulsa, being in Tulsa, really staying connected with TU was more of a pride thing. And as far as Tulsa as a city, knowing that it's somewhere that I grew up, knowing that it's somewhere I grew up, knowing somewhere I was fortunate enough to have a good career there, as far as in sports and in academics, I thought it made sense. And it would be good to be able to know what's going on with the school that I love and I enjoy, a part of the city that I love, enjoy, and have pride in, to be able to volunteer, give, or, give some input in and kind of do things, similar to what we're doing now.
Very nice. Thank you all. So as we transition a little bit, so involved in college, involved in your studies, and getting involved with TU post-graduation, let's talk a little bit about that transition from college to your career. It's a question I get asked a lot from students, as far as how does that transition happen? Is it natural? Does it take you a little bit? And the similarity would be maybe moving from high school to college, but how did you kind of know that, okay, my transition from college to career is complete, or is it still happening? And what were some advice you would give in making that transition? I was gonna say, whoever wants to start, that's fine.
Yeah, I would say, so this is Derrick Alexander. For me, it was twofold, just because it wasn't just transitioning out of college. It was also transitioning out of a career that I thought I was going to be doing since I was 8, so It was like a double hit, as far as a transition. The transition wasn't easy. It took some time. But what I would say is, everything that you're learning during this moment, during college, especially speaking to anybody that's, student athlete or a regular student, you're building some qualities and some traits while you're in college, whether it be your work ethic or, how you're studying for class, that you're going to be able to hang your hat on once you get out of college. And really being able to, I would say, as far as anything that would help as far as the transitioning process, is creating a set of rituals or patterns that you create that kind of make sure your mind's moving in a positive direction. And, while you're taking action, it'll lead you into kind of whatever is next, as long as you're being active and going out and doing those things that'll lead you in that direction.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll comment. This is John Hudson, and it's when I first stepped out into the market, I realized that the safety net of friends was mostly removed, and it's kind of a scary time to think about. But you do have skills that you can bring to the table that companies are looking for, organizations are looking for. What does change is your interpersonal relationships are somewhat different. When you have a relationship with a professor, you have a relationship with students. In a work environment, there's the politic of work that you'll become accustomed to. And my advice is that, just like you do in your classes today, make a weekly plan, make a daily plan, but be flexible enough, because What happens in our marketplace today that didn't happen so much 20, 30, 40 years ago is you have to be agile and you have to be willing to make changes very, very quickly. Just like what we saw in the last 60 days. We're all having to be creative. We're all having to change what we do. And so it's a little scary at first, but once you're out, especially if you've ever had an internship, I think that's a great way to experience what some of those interpersonal relationships might look like in the future.
Very nice. Thank you. So to build on that a little bit, you talk about the skills that one brings to the table as a student, as a new hire, so to speak, a new college grad. So in this ever-changing world of business, how do you keep up with those skills, those trends, news, to make sure you're staying relevant and adding that value to an organization? And Katie, do you mind if we start with you?
Sure. Well, I think I'm lucky because I work in an industry of energy and trading commodities that is always changing and evolving, and every day is a little bit different. So part of my job is to always just be able to adapt easily. The markets all moves on a regular basis, daily, sometimes more than others. You know, but also just the business changes and technology changes and systems change. And so just being able to, you know, keep your mind fresh and up to date and, you know, but also focused in a way that, you know, you can figure out what's important and what's not, or what's relevant. So I think the hard thing is, in today's society, there's so much information and so many things are changing. You kind of have to sift through and figure out, well, how does this pertain to me and what's important to me? And is this something that I need to take in and to consume, or is it something that I can just, okay, great, I know that, and move on? So for me, you know, being able to adapt is something that's it's pretty built into my job, and it's been something that I think I had to learn from the beginning. But I think the hard part is just knowing what's really the important things that I need to take and build upon.
Very nice. I like that.
Just to piggyback on that, I think that's an excellent point, Katie. Two of the things that I've really, in my, just 6-year post-college career, two of the things that I've really tried to hold on to is, one, at a very early stage in your career, try as hard as you can to find out what your boss or your boss's boss, find out the things that they place value on. We talked earlier about the transition from college into professional life, and a big piece of that is just understanding how much time you need to put towards things of value. And so being able to understand from an early standpoint, the things that your boss or your boss's boss puts a lot of value on will save you a lot of time and will also help you adapt quickly. You'll be able to quickly understand what are changes that may not be that concerning, or what are things that you really need to pay attention to. So that's one thing. The second thing I would say is that you should always be willing to do the things that no one else wants to do. There always are going to come opportunities, and you'll know it because you'll hear your boss or someone say, it would be really nice if there was this, or it'd be really nice if we had someone do this. And being someone that's always willing to put yourself in that situation is going to gain a lot of equity with your company and with the people who manage you. But it is also going to keep you on your toes because you are going to have a knack for being agile and for being innovative.
Very nice. All good. Definitely, for me personally, it's something I learned, early on in my career. Absolutely. I just want to remind everyone who are our attendees that you can chat your questions in using the chat box and also the Q&A feature. So if you hover at the bottom of your Zoom web connection, you'll see those two boxes. And with that, if the panelists don't object, we do have a question I would like to go ahead and ask you. So did anyone experience a transition from graduate school into the workplace?
I did.
Right.
I would say I was fortunate to be in the workplace and in graduate school at the same time. I had an internship, which was really helpful with that transition. But I also, after I graduated with my master's, the economy was not good. So I spent several months just looking for a job. And so that transition took a little longer than I had hoped. So it kind of just gave me some time to really be prepared for, and I was ready to go back to work. So that transition, I think I wanted it to be a lot quicker than it was, but at the end of the day, it was what was right for me. But I did have some experience, in a workplace environment that I had for almost 2 years with a concurrent internship while I was going to grad school.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then we had a follow-up, which I believe you answered as far as, did you expect to gain ground sooner within your career with that graduate degree, or did you understand that it's only an aid in your career development?
Yeah, it's definitely an aid. And I would say regardless of if you are in graduate school or an undergrad, I think the important thing to know is that the school is the foundation of a lot of your career. And it's going to give you some tools, but it's not going to give you everything. So going into that, goes back to that transition from school to work environment, is that you're not going to know everything. The school is there to provide you a foundation and opportunities and knowledge, but the textbooks don't have everything. So that's where looking for experiences to help that transition be easier, whether an internship or a mentorship, are really valuable. And I think people are just so ready to jump in and ready to go that, sometimes you just have to be patient and observe others. And, like Thomas said, talk to your manager, talk to other people that have been around there and say, what is valuable? What do I need to understand to help me with this transition?
Very nice. We do have a question for Derrick. So Derrick, we have quite a few student athletes joining us today. And so you had mentioned earlier your transition from being a student athlete from a career that you thought you'd be doing since you were 8 and then into the workforce. So the question is, what was the hardest part of that transition?
Well, I think the hardest part is just the unknown that really comes from it. As a student athlete, whether we believe it or not, to get to the space where you're playing, the sport that you love at a D1 college and then have the opportunity to do it at a professional level, you're somewhat on a pedestal, as far as the amount of attention that you receive, I would say. And what happens is once you transition out of your sport, all that leaves, for the most part. Like, people will recognize you, but you'll see a noticeable shift in your positioning I would say almost in the world, and that can sometimes affect athletes in a negative way, and it can cause them to have a lack of, it would cause them some extra time to try to get back on their feet and to find their purpose and or identity. And I would say that's the biggest change. That and like giving up the game is and understanding what that looks like. But what I would say is take heart in understanding that, kind of like what I spoke on briefly, the same things that got you to where you were to be at the position where you're at, to play at a Division I level, those things translate over into the professional world just as well. And what you'll find is once you go into those spaces, you'll definitely be different, than your counterparts. Just because the experiences that you've had. You know, you've been waking up at 5 a.m. You know, ever since you enter college. You know, to go work out and taking classes and juggling different things all throughout that time period. So if you don't do anything but keep in similar schedules, and you're waking up at 5 a.m. and you're surrounding yourself with things that you think you may be interested in and talking to mentors or using the TU Connect app to be able to spend time and get with people, you'll find your path and you'll find your groove. It may not replace the way the game made you feel, but you'll have some direction and you'll be able to impact some people for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So a couple things that have been hit on in your answers thus far. I want to take us down those roads. So the first one is, as we think about our current situation, Katie, I think you mentioned it when you graduated, the economy was not good. I graduated in a time during that similar time where it wasn't good either. And one would predict we're in a situation such as that now. So with your experiences, what advice would you give students during this time as they search for internships and search for those full-time positions post-graduation?
Yeah, I would say that to be patient, and I know that's hard, but be patient and take the opportunities that are given to you. So whether or not that is to learn something, that's beyond your major or area of study, or if the opportunity allows itself, the situation is a little bit different, but travel, meet people, talk to others, network. I would say those are things that, maybe if you don't get the position right away or some, the job you were looking for, I think it's going to be hard because there's a lot of people in that boat. And I would say just take that time, and it's not going to be easy, but I think you just have to be patient. But I think there's other things that you can do in the meantime to better yourself in whatever way you choose. And don't get so hung up on, I got to get the job, because that was definitely something I had wished I would have taken more advantage of that time that I had to myself, whether just to enjoy the fact that I got a couple months off or, learn something new in that time frame. So it's going to be a challenge for a lot of people, new graduates, and even some people that, have been in positions that have been laid off. So it's going to be, take that upon yourself to challenge yourself in some way that might be beyond just, your diploma.
I think something that Katie's hitting on too, which I want to piggyback on, is the importance of finding and understanding what you're passionate about. A lot of times, we go through these rigorous programs, classes, and it's really easy for us to get caught up in the academics and finding that job that dream job that we forget about, one, that everyone has multiple different gifts and talents, and if that dream job isn't there right there, it can be right then it can be an opportunity for you to develop different passions. And then I think the second piece that's important to remember is once you get that first time job, really work hard to not try and define yourself by that role.
Yes. Yep.
There are, I know for myself, I entered the industry. I work in the oil and gas industry. I entered at an all-time high, and in a matter of 6 months, it went to an all-time low. And even right now, for those who are aware today, we're at an unprecedented low. But I think what has kept me sane and kept me focused during this is that I know that I am not, as an individual, defined by the job that I do every day. So realizing that at the end of the day, that you are an individual with so much more so many gifts, so many talents, so much opportunity for you to make an impact on the world, and that kind of goes beyond just what you do from a 9 to 5.
Great advice. I love that. John or Derrick, do you want to offer any insights?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, really focus on your unique value and think about what you can bring to the table. Build an entrepreneur's mindset when you're looking for a job, especially in times like this. How can you bring value to the company? How can you bring value to humanity? And it's just all about solving problems. Prove how you can do that.
Very nice. Thank you. So following through on another theme that has been mentioned is the idea of mentorship. Seeking out mentors, possibly being a mentor. So as you look back over your career and even your time in college, can you talk a little bit about, did you have a mentor? Do you currently have a mentor? With Tulsa Connect, a great mentoring platform and a way to give back for students and for students to learn. But what's some of that advice you've gotten from a mentor, advice you've given, and really speak to the value of mentorship? And whoever wants to, Thomas, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. I've been very blessed and very fortunate to have some outstanding mentors. And one of the most phenomenal mentors that I have is a guy by the name of Michael Johnson. He was he is an African-American and was an executive for Williams in Tulsa. He grew up with my uncle in East St. Louis, Illinois. And before coming to TU, I really had no idea of what a career in oil and gas would. And I can guarantee you, I knew very little people that looked like me that had a successful career in oil and gas. And one of the things that I benefited so much from mentors is that it is so hard for you to visualize you going somewhere if you can't see someone that looks like you doing it. And the opportunity, just the exposure of having a mentor, of someone that had built an incredible career in that industry, just served as such a sense of inspiration for me. Seeing someone, tackle barriers and being able to achieve things that you could only dream of can give you such a great source of inspiration. And so I think finding a mentor starts with finding someone that you embody, or someone that you look up to, someone that you can see yourself doing what you want to be doing. To that end, to kind of give a plug for Tulsa Connect too.
Mm-hmm.
Please do.
Is kind of giving you a resource to get a head start on that right now. And so you have the opportunity to find people who are in the career path you may be interested in, or in the city. You have people that are able to connect with you from different points that you may be interested in from a career standpoint. So take that opportunity. The second really valuable mentor that I've had came through my experience with the TU Alumni Association. Moved to Houston, Texas, and immediately got involved with the Alumni Association, which kind of in a turn of events, I became president of the Houston chapter. And through that, I got to meet with some of Houston alumni. And one of those alumni happened to be the CEO of Anadarko Petroleum. His name's Al Walker. And through that relationship, as becoming a chapter president, I was able to get to know him on both a personal and professional level. And then, in a turn of events, I ended up working at Anadarko. And through my experience there, that relationship only flourished. So had it not been for TU, had it not been for my involvement in the Alumni Association, I don't think that connection would have been made, and I certainly wouldn't be having the same benefits I'm having today without it.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. And, you know, you talked about Michael Johnson, just a total side note. And when I interned at Williams, he was one of the first people I met there as well. And so just an overall great guy, great mentor. So Tulsa's not that big. We have that in common, Thomas. So that's really great. So, anyone else want to talk about their mentorship experiences?
Yeah, I'll chime in here. I mean, Thomas, you mentioned Tulsa Connect. Thank you for doing that. I think it's really important that we continue to grow that platform. But I also think you need to ask yourself, what do you want out of a mentoring relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for a sounding board? Are you looking for someone just to help you find a job or look at your resume, maybe do a mock interview? Or are you looking for something more long-term? So I think you need to first establish what you're looking for out of that. And I've had a couple of tremendous mentors over the years. And the last one was about 5 years ago. Our company of about 150 employees was being acquired. And the new company, our president, took a different role at the new company. And he quickly became my mentor. And with great solace, after about a year and a half, he was let go from the company and I took his role.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned so much from this gentleman that, you know, I'm very grateful. And he's in a better place now, regardless. But I've also been a mentor, and that's been outside of the Tulsa Connect platform, but it's also been inside the Tulsa Connect platform. A couple of very interesting young gentlemen that we've had some wonderful phone calls. But that's pretty much my history.
Okay.
I would add to that and just saying, as far as the importance of having a mentor, especially as when you're first entering your career, it's just kind of understanding having somebody in your corner who's already had the thoughts that you are about to have and who have walked through, you know, maybe some of those motions or the actions that you're thinking about taking before you take them, to, you know, be able to have somebody to speak to about that. You know, there was a guy, especially entering into my career, there was a guy who's had a career here as a financial advisor for over 30 years. And, you know, he's one of the guys that I lean on before making decisions, you know, in regards with, you know, my company. And it's just like anything else that we do. If you have somebody who's already been there and done it, you know, why not bounce some ideas off of them, you know, to be able to give you some guidance.
Love that. I love it. So just as a reminder to our attendees, keep the questions coming. So you can do that by chatting in your question or by going to the Q&A box and typing your question in there. We still have plenty of time for the panel, so we want to make sure if you have any questions that we get those asked before our time runs out. So definitely utilize the chat box and the Q&A box to ask those questions. So,
Hey, Leonel.
Yes.
I just wanted to say one more thing, because I think John brought up a really, really good point that I just want to add to.
Absolutely.
You know, I think in the business world, a lot of times we use the term mentor a lot. And it sometimes, I think, can, at least to me, sometimes in college, I almost had the idea, well, I just need a mentor because everyone tells me I need a mentor.
Right.
And John, I think you made a really good point. A really huge aspect of having a valuable mentorship or mentor relationship is being honest, but also knowing what you want and not being afraid to ask that mentor what you want. Whether that is a resume review, whether that's career advice, but a lot of times it's easy for us to maybe be initially intimidated or to get a mentor or have a mentee and say, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do here. So I would just encourage people, you know, step one, you want to find someone, but step two, you really want to make sure you're utilizing them. Don't be afraid to reach out to them. Don't be afraid to ask them stupid questions because just having someone and calling them a mentor and not utilizing them is really just a waste.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Absolutely. Great points. Very good points. And with the mentor relationship, it's really seeking what is it you want and not being afraid. And it can be intimidating, very much so, but great points made around all the way around of how one should approach a mentor relationship, whether formal or informal on that aspect. So turning things to our alma mater, TU. So thinking about your time here at the university, what would you say was your favorite memory, your favorite TU memory? And that's a question for everyone.
I'll go. I had quite a few, but something that stands out to me, and just because it was so unique and different at the time, was in 2000 when our men's basketball team made it to the Elite Eight. Some of us went down to Austin to support them, and that was probably one of my top memories, just because everybody showed up for the team. It was, our team was tremendous, but the fact that we even made it to the tournament and it was just that atmosphere around that basketball team and the school pride. And we made ourselves known in the city of Austin, that is for sure, for our little school. So during the game and afterwards, when everybody went out, and it was just popped some of my memories, although there are many that I could probably talk to, but that's definitely one that was very special and different.
Yeah, that's a good one. I remember back to that time we had Marcus Hill, Greg Arrington.
Yes.
The whole city rallied behind TU. It was great. I remember I was a freshman when that was fantastic. That's a great memory. Yeah, I can recall the players' names. That's awesome. So
that's right.
So, all right. Who else wants to go? Favorite TU memory?
Katie, I have memories, but I shouldn't share them because your boss wouldn't like it.
Oh, we can keep it between us.
Yeah, for me, there's a ton of great memories, and that's the awesome thing about TU and just the TU family. But probably for me, it's where I met my wife and the circumstances of where I met her and the conversations that happened after that. So pretty awesome.
Nice. Thomas and Derrick?
I would say my favorite, I really have two, but my favorite one one of my favorite moments was when my senior year, at my time at TU, we went to an Armed Forces Bowl, then we won the Liberty Bowl, and then we went like 2-12 my redshirt sophomore year. Then we went like 3-11, the year after. And that year going into my redshirt senior year, we really had some conversations about getting back to a bowl game, and we had just lost our head coach at that time. And just seeing us battle day in and day out. And what we did was we wrote down a list of goals that we had, and we hit every goal that we put down that year. That was really special. And then number two was, during that time after I realized, well, it wasn't even the time after I realized I was done playing football, but I was still training at TU. And I was at a space where I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know who I should talk to. I didn't know anything. I just knew I should talk to somebody. And I reached out to one of the people that I knew here at TU, and I just asked him what direction should I go, like kind of point me in. And he said, well, we got plenty of alumni that you could reach out to, just reach out to them. And he gave me a list of names, and I reached out to everybody that he gave me, and everybody met with me. And I remember that felt really good. Just knowing that everybody created some time for, a student that really didn't know where he wanted to go, but they all offered a little bit of insight and direction. And that was a good moment. And now we got, this platform where, you can just go online and connect with anybody. So that, I think, is awesome.
Fantastic. Thomas?
So Derrick, I echo yours. The Liberty Bowl in 2012 in Memphis was probably one of my favorite experiences. I don't know what it's probably just the camaraderie that comes with athletics. Because when I think about my, best moments at TU, I'm always thinking about, when we won a really great game, and the cheers and just everyone having a great time. But really kind of thinking about it, I think honestly my favorite TU memory was right before I decided that I was going to go to TU. It was during our Tulsa time, and I had been on a lot of college visits that weekend, and honestly was after my last one, I was pretty set to go to Xavier University in Cincinnati. I'd been there the whole weekend. I didn't really want to go visit TU, and I remember that Tulsa time experience, being on campus, getting the opportunity to sit and meet with professors. I got this feeling in the gut of my stomach, and I don't know how many people ever get that feeling, but it was that feeling of this was the place that I was supposed to be. And kind of looking back on that time now and seeing just all the opportunities that have been afforded to me through my TU experience, I just couldn't imagine making any other decision. And so I think that's got to be for me my favorite TU memory.
Very nice. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that experience, being a third generation, a legacy student, or a legacy alumna with my mother and grandmother going here. It's like, we played TU blue and gold growing up, but it's that feeling you get, like, this is where I belong. And there were other schools definitely that I was interested in, but having that gut feeling, this is where I belong, and how you're embraced at the University of Tulsa, and keep those connections with alumni reaching out, professors, everything, that you get to keep those connections, which is very unique and just amazing. And with that, as we transition, I want a couple of you just to talk a little bit about the relationships you still maintain with some of your professors, if any.
This is Thomas. I can go.
Okay. After I gave that lead in, it's like, I don't really talk to my professors anymore. Go ahead.
I'll say, one really great thing about, I think, the business school as a whole was just how tight-knit that community was. And so the ability to have professors more than once, you really felt like, these professors knew you because they got to see you multiple years. They got to see you grow. And so I'll say through the energy management program, I've definitely been able to maintain contact with Tom Sang. Anytime he's in town in Denver, or if we're in Houston for an oil and gas conference, he's always reaching out. And I think that just goes a long way to speak to, the TU commitment, is that every single person is valued and accepted and embraced here. And so that's been a really great relationship that, I've always been really thankful for. But I also will recognize that, that is not unlike any other relationship that with anyone from TU, whether it's a professor or a staff member. I still, every time I'm back on campus, I give hugs to the ladies at ACAC that still remember when I used to. And so, the thing about TU is that everybody that works there is invested in you. And so you really realize that when you go into the world. And there's times where I've had to reach out to Anila Madan, a finance professor, about, am I doing these taxes right? Or, running into a finance professor while I'm back on campus during homecoming and being able to kind of pick up where we left off. So I think all in all, whether you're able to maintain contact with them for, months, or it's a couple years, or you see them when you're back on campus for homecoming, it's the fact that you're able to pick up where you left off that really, I think, shows to the value of the relationships at TU.
Absolutely. Any other comments on that one? All right, we do have a question that came in, and Thomas, this is actually for you. Are there any specific areas within oil and gas that you have taken away from your education that gave you a new, better understanding of the industry, or within your experiences that you continue to build on?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. So are there any areas within oil and gas, any specific areas that you've taken away from your education that helped you with your understanding of the industry, or areas in oil and gas that you understand better and build on because of your education?
I think the comical answer is that, petroleum economics, that no one ever knows what the price of oil is going to be.
Yeah.
And you got to roll with it. I think that's probably my cynical answer. I think, a class that I am often thinking about right now is I took energy commodity trading senior year, and we do a lot of simulations on things that affect the price of oil. And I don't know, most of you guys may know, but oil has gone into the negatives today. It's very
Yes, it did. Yep.
And one of the reasons why, or contributing factors, is U.S. oil storage is at an all-time high. And that was one of the things that I remember we had to do pretty much every day before you went to that commodity trading class, is that you had to go to the EIA, look at where the oil storage was, and based off that, try and make a prediction on what you thought oil futures were going to be. So being able, a lot of times in class, when you're in school, it's a lot of theory, and sometimes you're always asking yourself, is this theory going to be really practical? And I can tell you today that just having that understanding, being able to just be knowledgeable of that, goes a long way, whether you're in conversations with different companies, or whether you're just kind of prepared as a professional in the industry on how these changes, with all these headlines that you may hear in the news, are going to affect the way your company operates.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So I'll give our panelists in a couple seconds some final parting words, but I want to first thank you all for your time as we go through just a few more slides to highlight some upcoming events that we might have. If you have any lingering questions, feel free to go ahead and use the chat or the Q&A or email to get those in before we end the panel. But wanted to talk about some upcoming events that the Business Career Center is hosting, and the alumni office, the alumni engagement office. So various events, we moved online as well in the Business Career Center, virtual, with not only our appointments, but also with our employer engagement. And so we do have New York Life. We'll be doing an employer showcase this Wednesday. One guest will be presenting to us virtually on Monday. And one of the things I'm very proud of in the College of Business is our commitment, and within TU, our commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity. And so we'll be hosting our 5th annual Diversity and Inclusion Forum, which will be virtual. And the focus of that one's going to be definitely on diversity, equity, and inclusion in this environment of COVID-19, and how maybe, some things fall off the radar when we're dealing with pandemics or a crisis, but how diversity and inclusion should definitely always remain. And so we'll have a great lineup of not only TU leaders on this panel, but also business leaders as well. So that's all virtual. We're keeping our virtual bell, as we all know, is a great TU tradition, to ring the bell after your last final. And so we're going to do that virtually. And so the alumni office is definitely working on ways to do that, as far as videos, to really show our class of 2020 that we're excited for them. We know this is not what they expected, how they expected their senior year or end of their graduate studies to end, but that we are committed and we are very proud of them and want to send our congratulations. TU Uncorked, one of my favorite events, will also be virtual, and that's on Friday, June 19th. So more information coming. in regards to that. And you can always stay updated on upcoming events by looking at the TU Alumni page, which is tualumni.com/events. And we talked a lot about utulsaconnect.com. If you are an attendee and you are not yet signed up on utulsaconnect.com, I highly recommend it. I don't want to say it's homework for you after the panel ends, but definitely something I highly recommend. All of our panelists today are on utulsaconnect.com. Connect with them. If you have any issues signing on, definitely reach out to the Alumni Engagement Office. They can help you. But it's a great way to stay connected with alumni. I am on it. I love seeing my classmates on it. I love being a mentor to current students. It's just a great way to stay connected and really just another tool to help us as a TU family. And so with that, panelists, do you have any final words you'd like to say before we end today?
I'll just say thank you for inviting me, and stay engaged with the university and the alumni. And I think now more than ever, it's going to be important. There's a lot of things changing and a lot of unknowns occurring right now. And so the more that you can stay in touch, I think the better off you'll be. So good luck to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'd just like to thank everyone that's an attendee here for taking the time to be here. I know it's not easy. You have a lot going on. And so thank you for being here. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I will. Sign up on UTulsa Connect. Find a mentor. And the other thing I wanted just to make a comment about is be open to alternative types of jobs. I know everyone wants to go work for Google or Yahoo or whatever, those top 10 companies, but be open to working for a company that might only have 50 to 100 employees. I think you might find a lot of success in those areas. And I know I have, and I've worked for the large companies before, and I enjoy the more entrepreneurial environment that I exist in today.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Thomas.
Okay. Again, just to piggyback on what everyone said, thank you guys for your time. I think it means a lot to us, and I think it means a lot, to TU, and to thank you, Leonel, for being able to coordinate this. And we are facing right now a time that's very unprecedented, and there are a lot of changes. And if there's anything I've learned from my time at TU and my time as a young professional, is that change is inevitable. And the best thing that we can do is focus on the things that we can control. And so I know, my parents always used to tell me that when things weren't going my way, and I would kind of roll my eyes. But now as a young professional, I really do take that to heart. And I try, what I would encourage each and every one of you to do is to try and find some freedom and solitude in that, and that there are going to be things that we can't control, and sometimes that's a good thing. So thanks for your time, and connect on UTulsa Connect and on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And Derrick?
Yeah, I guess last words that I would leave for you all are, just following up with everybody, pretty much everybody else said, thank you all for being here. It's great that you all took the time to invest into your future and get some insight. Kind of piggybacking off of what, John and Thomas, and I think what Katie's, all of us are trying to say is during this time, I think it's important to know that it's okay to not know, what you want to do. It's okay to kind of fumble around for a little bit. The only thing I would say is just make sure that during that time, that just understand that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. If you can keep that mindset and kind of see the opportunity when it's kind of like dark and gray, you'll end up farther ahead, in the long term picture. So with that in mind, connect with UConnect, and we appreciate you allowing us to be here and speak to you all.
Awesome. So thank you all to our attendees for attending. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a survey. So a couple options. Once you exit this panel in Zoom, a window should pop up. Two options. It'll redirect you to a window with the survey, or you can click through that you want to answer the survey, or if you want to just go ahead and use the QR code that is present on the screen, you can do that as well. So we just appreciate any feedback you may give us on all of this, on this panel and the events that we've had. So definitely take a few minutes. It actually won't take that long, just a few seconds to complete the survey. And once again, I want to say thank you so much to all of our panelists. Everyone, please stay safe, please stay healthy. And until we meet again as a TU family on campus, I wish everyone the best. Thank you so much for joining us today.